Hello and welcome to our special show, Coronavirus Facts versus Myths. We're counting down to the vaccination program. Let's take a look at the headlines we're tracking today. India's vaccination drive against COVID will be launched on the 16th from 3,000 centres across the country. At each centre, 100 doses will be given on the first day, the Prime Minister to launch the vaccination drive. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal says Delhi is fully prepared for the launch of the vaccination drive. He says it will take place on 4 days a week. In the United States, California is transforming baseball stadiums and fairgrounds into mass vaccination sites as coronavirus surge overwhelms hospitals and sets a deadly new record in the state. And a global team of researchers from the World Health Organization are in Wuhan to conduct the politically sensitive investigation into the origins of coronavirus. Well, up first, let's get you the latest that we know about the vaccination program. India's vaccination drive against COVID will be launched at around 3,000 sites on the 16th, and the number of sites will be then ramped up to 5,000 by the end of the month. Each site will have an average of around 100 recipients on the first day, though the number may vary across states depending on the enrollment of healthcare workers and time taken to administer the shots. The drug regulator has granted emergency use approval to Oxford University AstraZeneca's Covishield vaccine, which is being locally manufactured by the Serum Institute of India, and Bharat Biotech's Covaxin based on safety and immunogenicity data. Now, the government has said that the vaccines have been tested on thousands of patients and are safe. The Prime Minister is going to launch the vaccination drive, which he has called the largest in the world. And Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has said that Delhi is fully prepared for the vaccination drive, that the vaccines will be administered 4 times a week.
दिल्ली सरकार और दिल्ली के लोग वैक्सीनेशन के लिए पूरी तरह से तैयार हैं। आज सुबह ही मैंने अपनी टीम के साथ सारी तैयारियों का जायजा लिया। पहले दिन 16 जनवरी को 81 जगहों पर वैक्सीन लगाई जाएंगी। हफ्ते में 4 दिन वैक्सीन लगाई जाएगी। सोमवार, मंगलवार, गुरुवार और शनिवार। शुरुआत में हम 81 सेंटर्स पे शुरू कर रहे हैं। इसको बढ़ा के कुछ दिन में 175 सेंटर कर दिए जाएंगे और उसको बढ़ा के कुछ दिनों के और बाद 1000 सेंटर्स पूरी दिल्ली में वैक्सीनेशन के लिए तैयार किए जा रहे हैं।
All right, so many people have lots of questions. Lots of our viewers have been writing in and calling in with many questions. To talk about all that and answer those questions, we're joined by Dr. Shekhar C. Mande, Director General of the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, and Dr. Sushila Kataria, Senior Director, Internal Medicine, Department of Medicity, Medanta. Thank you both, doctors, for joining us. Dr. Mande, first to you. Finally, we're about to start the vaccination program. Are there any worries that you have, because what we've seen in other countries, how slow it's been? What kind of obstacles do you expect here, if any?
So, to the best of my understanding, the dry runs have gone across quite well, and whatever worries were there, the very purpose of dry runs was actually to see whether everything can be done smoothly or not. And to the best of my knowledge, whatever questions came up in the dry runs, they have been addressed effectively by all the states. So all the administrative machinery of the states is fully ready for delivering vaccines, and we do hope that this will actually change the picture in the coming time, picture of the pandemic.
Right. Dr. Sushila Kataria, as somebody who, dealt with one of the first reported cases of coronavirus when those Italian tourists tested positive for COVID in Rajasthan and then they were treated at Medanta. An exciting time. Finally, the vaccination process will begin. Any concerns that you have, and what are your comments as we're, leading up to the 16th?
Absolutely. It is definitely the exciting time for the whole country. And doing this in such a short time and ensuring the safety and efficacy of the vaccine, it is definitely, and the lessons learned from this will go a long way in treating other diseases as well. I'm really excited. I have no concerns. Just that the supply of the vaccines would be sufficient and everybody will get it when the turn comes. So I am absolutely excited about it.
Right. Dr. Monday, do you think the entire issue that we saw over Covaxin's approval is now behind us? Because even yesterday, the Congress raised the issue about, initially we were told that it has got emergency use authorization to be used in a clinical manner, which we understood to mean that those who get it are going to be a part of the phase 3 studies. The Congress yesterday raising issues that how it's been included in the vaccination program and about Indians being guinea pigs. What are your comments on that?
So in the development of vaccine, there are 3 major issues that we have to consider. All right. The first of the issues is that is the vaccine safe to be administered? The second of the issues whether it generates elicits immune response in our bodies, and the third the efficacy. Right. Now we know very well that both these vaccines are very safe. So the first issue is taken care of. The second issue is that of whether it elicits immune response. In both the cases, it is known that the immune response is actually quite well in animals as well as in humans. Now the third issue is about the efficacy. Now efficacy, at least for the Serum Institute AstraZeneca vaccine, is established to be something like 70%.
Yes.
And the figures for Bharat Biotech are yet to come forward. But nonetheless, given the scale or the magnitude of the pandemic that is ahead of us, and we know that we are losing people every day, the cost and benefit or risk and benefit analysis, if you do, it overwhelmingly actually in favor of starting vaccinating people with the candidates which are safe and elicit good immune response. So I don't see anything wrong with this. So the debate should be behind us now.
All right. Dr. Sushila Kataria, some of the questions people have about when they do get vaccinated, that, what happens then? Can they still spread the infection? Do they have to continue with COVID appropriate behavior? If you could answer that.
Yes, it is very, very important that we take care of few things. Even when we are vaccinated, immunity takes time to develop, and the safe behavior is protecting you against COVID and many more infections. So even when somebody gets vaccinated, please in the vaccination centers maintain mask and social distancing. After even getting vaccinated, mask, social distancing, sanitation needs to be maintained very, very closely. Somebody who's actively right now being infected with COVID-19 is not a candidate for vaccination. At least 14 days from recovery is the time what the government has and the manufacturers have advised. So somebody who's got COVID infection currently going through that process is not to be vaccinated, and he should not visit the vaccination center in the fear of spreading the infection. But somebody who got in the past and has recovered and it's been 2 weeks is a good candidate to get the vaccine. So these are the important things in this.
All right. And everyone, even after vaccination, must continue to practice that COVID culture, that COVID appropriate behavior. Let's just listen into one of our viewer questions.
I am Mrs. Manmeet Kaur from Gurgaon. I would like to ask you, doctor, that how many people in the country need to be vaccinated for us to get herd immunity?
The herd immunity question, Dr. Monday?
So see, the entire purpose of vaccination is actually make them immune and also in some sense get herd immunity. Now typically in the past people have talked about roughly 60 to 70% population to get herd immunity, but these numbers are debatable, and therefore we should aim for as many people in the population as possible to get them vaccinated. So scientists will keep debating. It's a good scientific question to address, that what is the number to reach herd immunity. But from the public policy, I think the policy ought to be that we get as many people vaccinated as possible.
Right. Dr. Sushila Kataria, there's also been, a lot of talk about how India's numbers have come down so much. We're under, and touch wood, we don't want to jinx that. But yes, over the last 7 days, there have been under 20,000 cases being reported daily, while we're seeing, the cases spike in the US and in England as well. And this has raised many to say, oh, do we eventually need to get vaccinated? Maybe we've already, got ahead of this pandemic.
Well, that is a relevant question, very relevant question, but we should not forget that we are about 2 months behind the other countries which peaked early. So a second peak is very, very imminent, and it can happen if we become little more complacent, both in the behavior and vaccination. So the good thing is that the numbers have coming down in the last 1 month, and post New Year celebration also it has stayed on the lower side, which is really, really good. But I would not advise you to not to get vaccinated, excited by these numbers. The numbers can increase any time. the upward trend takes just 1 week to, swell up and increase the numbers to 5 times. So even if the numbers are good, we are lucky. The country is behaving, we all are observing good precautions. That means, and continue with this unless we surpass this one whole year ahead, we can't say it is gone out of the country.
Absolutely, very important point. Let's just listen into the next question.
I am Lisa from Gurgaon. I want to ask one question. What kind of side effects do vaccines cause?
Dr. Mande?
Well, as I said, this is a question that is on the minds of many different people. And it has been said earlier, as I said, the vaccines are proven to be safe. So we don't expect any side effect. If at all any minor side effect that you find would be some small of redness, bit of redness on the place where you are being injected the vaccine, or at the most some mild fever for a day or something like that. But we don't expect any major side effect. And had there been any major side effect, it would have been very imminent by now, because the trials have been conducted on very large number of people and no major side effect has come forward as of now. So people should be very, feel safe in taking the vaccines, and people should actually go voluntarily to take vaccines when their time comes.
All right, let's listen into the next question.
I'm Gurpreet Parashar from Gurugram. I want to know, what if an old person has heart problem or asthma? Can he still take the vaccine?
Dr. Sushila?
Very good question, Gurpreet. And yes, it is all the more important people who are above the age of 50 or having any comorbid medical condition for them to get vaccinated, because from our experience, we know that if they get infection, it may be more severe than others. So anybody who has heart problem, lung problem, kidney problems, asthma, diabetes, or any other immune compromising condition, it is absolutely safe and necessary to take the vaccine.
Right, and again, coming back to that question of side effects, people who do go in for the vaccination are going to be kept for half an hour in case, they have any kind of allergic reaction. We did see after the Pfizer vaccine, there were, few cases reported here and there, but very few. Dr. Sushila?
Yes, so people are going to be observed, and we are at our institute, we are going to give them a diary to maintain for 1 week so that we can record each and every effect, and we are wiser again to advise the whole country afterwards. So we expect there may be some local site pain, redness, fever, chills, headache. It may be there, but everything is manageable with paracetamol, and we have set up a very detailed process in which if somebody is experiencing any effect, expected or unexpected, how to solve it and how to help them.
All right, let's listen into the next question.
This is Anupama from Gurgaon. I just want to ask one question. How common are reinfections from coronavirus, and how long do antibodies last?
Right, Dr. Mande, in fact, talking about antibodies, and a lot of people are asking about whether people who've been through coronavirus and have the antibodies still need to get vaccinated.
Yes, they do. Actually, Dr. Sushila mentioned just now that after you get over your infection, after 14 days or something, it could still be desirable that you go and get vaccinated. The thing is, the corona reinfections are not very common. As we have now seen in the world, millions of people who have been affected by corona, they have had infection. Out of the millions, only at the most about 100 or 200 cases have come forward in which people have had second infection. So it's not very clear yet why the second infection is coming in those people. But we should also remember that we are only in the 11th month of the pandemic. So whether there is long-lasting immunity against corona is still being debated among the scientists. For the general public, it is important that we continue maintaining the same corona-appropriate behavior that was talked about just now, and get vaccinated as early as possible, as soon as your turn comes. So that's for the general public. But for the scientists, it is our job to debate amongst ourselves how long the immunity lasts, whether a person can get second time reinfected, what would be the consequences, and so on and so forth.
All right. Well, thank you both for sparing your time and answering all those questions as we're counting down to the great vaccination drive, one of the largest in the world. On the 16th, India is going to launch the vaccination drive against coronavirus. Time for us to slip into a short break. Coming up on the other side, we're going to discuss the South Africa variant and whether it's something that can withstand the vaccines. Now, speaking of the variants of coronavirus, and remember the UK variant is being blamed on the crisis they're now seeing. Let's focus on the South Africa variant, and scientists have identified an escaped mutant that may decrease the efficacy of COVID vaccines. The mutation called E484K has been found in a variant of the coronavirus first spotted in South Africa 2 months ago. The variant has now spread, according to reports, to at least 12 other countries. Well, to talk more about this, we're now joined by Professor Salim Abdul. He's joining us for Salim Abdul Karim, member of the COVID Task Force. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us again on the show. First and foremost, tell us about the situation in South Africa and what we know about this variant.
Good morning, and good morning to all of the viewers. The situation right now in South Africa is quite dire in the sense that we now have more cases and more admissions and more deaths than we had at any point in the first wave. Our second wave came about 6 weeks earlier than we anticipated. We had thought it would come in January. Instead, it started in November. It seems that two key things were responsible. The first is the emergence of a new, more transmissible variant. And the second is our younger population engaging in mass gatherings that led to super spreading events after their final examination. So that seeded the virus in the community, and now we are in the midst of our second wave, close to the peak. We are anticipating that the peak will be with us within this coming week.
Right, sir. Initially, when this new variant was detected in South Africa, your health minister had tweeted regarding it, and he'd also seemed to indicate that this carried a higher, viral burden, and that more young people were getting infected because of that. But now, what is the understanding among you scientists and doctors?
So we've been monitoring the viral genomes, the genetic code of the virus, on a monthly basis. And since April this year, my colleague, Professor D'Oliveira, comes up and we go through all of the information every month. And every month, it's been somewhat underwhelming in that we just see 1 or 2 mutations every month. And they minor mutations, they have no impact. And so we sort of got a bit complacent that we thought the virus doesn't really mutate that much and it's very stable. Well, in November, we were taken aback. Suddenly, a virus that was very stable, we saw 23 mutations. Almost 20 of them were leading to changes in the protein structure. And importantly, 3 of the mutations were in the key part of the virus that attaches to the human cell. And those 3 key changes make a difference because they enable the virus to attach more strongly to the human cell. And when that happens, transmission of the virus is more efficient. And so our second wave, we have seen a virus that is spreading much more faster than we saw in the first wave, up to about 40–50% faster. And that's what that is doing is putting huge pressure on the hospital system because the admissions are coming in very rapidly. So even though the virus itself does not seem to cause more severe disease, because of its greater transmissibility and efficiency of transmission, it's putting much more pressure on the hospital service.
And what about these latest reports that talk about, this mutant, the strain escape mutant and how it could reduce the efficacy of the vaccine?
So at this point, we understand that the 3 key mutations in the 501YV2 variant that we've described in South Africa, that of those 3 mutations, each of them on their own are involved in viral escape. In other words, if an individual has had this SARS-CoV-2 infection in the past and developed antibodies, these 3 mutations individually can help escape those antibodies. In combination, E484, in other words, the mutation at position 484 seems to be the most important in that it enables the virus to escape from antibodies that were acquired during the first wave. Now, what does that mean? It means, firstly, that we may start seeing more reinfections. At this stage, we are not, but studies are underway to look for those reinfections, because if you don't look for these variants and if you don't look for them, you won't find them. So it's very important, and so we've increased our surveillance to do that. The second is, does it impact vaccine-induced immunity? And the answer to that, it's not known. None of the vaccines that are currently available have data yet as to whether their antibodies are able to neutralize the 501Y.V2 variant. We should have that information within weeks.
All right, Professor Karim. Well, thank you so much for speaking to us and telling us about all the research that's taking place there in South Africa regarding this new variant, and we'll, of course, be in touch for more developments. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Well, that's all the time we have on the show today. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.